He created General Motors. He controlled companies worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he ended his life working at a bowling alley. This is the story of William Croppo Durant, a man who built one of the largest industrial empires in American history twice, and lost it twice. William Durant was born in 1861 in Boston, into a family with political and business roots. His grandfather was the governor of Michigan, but Durant himself never finished university and left formal education early. He was not an engineer. He was not a technician. He didn't understand mechanics. His real talent was persuasion and the ability to see scale where others only saw risk. Durant was a classic entrepreneur of his era, charismatic, impulsive, and dangerously confident. He could convince investors for hours without charts or spreadsheets, relying purely on personal conviction and promises of the future. Contemporaries recalled that he could easily captivate an entire room of bankers and just as easily ignore every financial warning. His first fortune did not come from automobiles. In the late 19th century, Durant founded the Durant Carriage Company, a manufacturer of horse-drawn carriages. By 1900, it was the largest carriage producer in the United States, more than 100,000 units per year, factories across the country, and nearly 50% market share. His personal wealth was already estimated at $1 to $2 million, equivalent to roughly $35 to $70 million today. At its peak, Durant's carriage business was valued at tens of millions of dollars, a level of wealth accessible only to a small circle of American industrialists. For comparison, the average American at the time earned less than $500 per year. Durant was living in a world where money no longer felt like a limitation. That was when a core belief took hold. Scale mattered more than stability. But the world was changing. At the beginning of the 20th century, automobiles were expensive, unreliable, and frightening to investors. Most businessmen considered them a passing trend. Durant himself initially doubted cars until he encountered Buick. In 1904, he became the head of Buick Motor Company and, within just a few years, turned it from a struggling manufacturer into the best-selling automobile brand in America. This is where his key idea was born, not to compete with individual models, but to buy companies and build an empire. In 1908, Durant founded General Motors. It was not a factory, it was a financial structure. Within 2 years, he acquired Buick, Oldsmobile, Cadillac, Oakland, later Pontiac, and dozens of suppliers of engines, parts, and bodies. In many ways, General Motors became the first true automotive holding company in the modern sense. Before that, manufacturers fought each other brand by brand. Durant tried to control the entire industry, from brands to suppliers. In doing so, he created a prototype of 20th century corporate America before it even understood what it needed. All of it was financed with debt. By 1910, General Motors was valued at more than $500 million, roughly $15 to $17 billion today. Durant was called the Automobile King of America. At his peak, his personal fortune exceeded $100 million at the time, about $3 billion in today's terms. But there was a problem. He barely controlled the finances. Durant hated accounting, ignored balance sheets, trusted intuition, and believed growth would never stop. He bought companies with borrowed money, pledged shares as collateral, and often didn't even know the true financial condition of the assets he acquired. In some years, General Motors' debt load exceeded 80% of its total asset value. The empire survived not because of profit, but because of trust from banks and markets. As long as the economy grew, the system worked, but it left no room for error. When the financial panic of 1910 hit the United States, banks suddenly demanded repayment. General Motors was pushed to the edge of default. The board of directors, dominated by bankers and investors, made its decision. Durant was removed from control. The man who created General Motors lost the company he built. For Durant, This was not just a financial defeat. It was a personal betrayal. He didn't see his removal as the result of his own decisions, but as an injustice. That sense of betrayal pushed him toward an even riskier second ascent. Most people would have disappeared. Durant never did. In 1911, he met a charismatic racer and mechanic named Louis Chevrolet, and together they founded the Chevrolet Motor Company. Chevrolet became a sensation. Affordable mass-market cars sold in the hundreds of thousands. At its peak, Chevrolet was producing hundreds of thousands of vehicles per year and became a direct competitor to Ford's Model T. It was one of the fastest rises in automotive history. The company became so successful that Durant used Chevrolet stock to quietly buy back shares of General Motors. In 1916, he returned, back on top, a millionaire again, once more in charge of one of the largest corporations in the world. But nothing had changed. The same debts, the same disregard for risk, the same belief in his own genius. In 1920, he was removed from General Motors again, this time permanently. The company was handed over to Alfred Sloan, who would build the modern corporate management model. Under Sloan, GM became a stable global giant. In the early 1920s, Durant was still seen as a financial authority. His name appeared in newspapers alongside Rockefeller and Morgan. Investors trusted him based on past victories, rarely questioning the risks. Then Durant turned to the stock market. He began aggressively speculating, trying to win back what he had lost. When 1929 arrived, the market crash destroyed everything. He lost nearly all of his remaining wealth, personal investments, business remnants, the trust of the financial world. By the early 1930s, William Durant was effectively bankrupt. A man who once controlled assets worth billions in today's dollars was forced to work as a simple manager at a bowling alley in Flint, Michigan. The irony was brutal. At the same time, General Motors had become the largest automobile company in the world. It generated millions in profits every year, yet the man who laid its foundation had no connection to it at all. No power, no companies, no empire. He died in 1947 with almost no money. His name faded from public memory. The world knows General Motors, Chevrolet, Cadillac, but not the man who united them. This is not a story of fraud and not a story of crime. It is the story of a man who believed scale could replace control, a man who proved twice that he could build an empire, and proved twice that he could lose it by ignoring reality. The story of William Durant became a classic lesson in business history. A visionary who moved faster than his discipline could keep up. He built empires faster than he learned how to sustain them. Sometimes the greatest enemy of a business is not the market, but the person who created it.